Okay, now in my house, I have almost everything set up for backyard farming. I've got my aquaponics, which gives me all the fruit and veg. I've got chickens where I get a stack of eggs. I've got fish, which I don't really eat them, but I can get baby fish from that I kind of sell. But the one thing I haven't got is bees. So it's time to remedy that. So I'm gonna make myself a few beehives that I can set up at random places around my backyard and get a hell of a lot of honey. So to start off, I've got these ones. These are little plastic foundations, and they are what the bees like to put wax and everything up. If you have a look closer, you can see there's lots of little grids, and they put up all of the wax in between it and use these ones. So I've got 50 of these, and I have a whole lot of wood that's left over from previous projects. There was well, if you have a look here, you can see where I was pulling it all down. There were some shelvings that I put up when I first bought the house, and one of the first things that I did, and I've had that wood hanging around for a while, so I am going to turn them into the frames for these, and as much as I have left over for the frame around the hives themselves. So keep tuned and see how well it works out. Okay, now the whole plan of this project is to just basically be a tight ass. So I'm going to use up as much of the scrap wood that I've got up there. A lot of it's chipboard, so I can't really use it outside, but the timber that I had left over from when I was doing the study, it's perfectly good to go. It's got a layer of paint, which I've got to take off all of the inside, because apparently paint isn't really good for bees, so I kind of want to keep the inside of the hives as just a plain pine wood. So I basically gave it all a sand down and then started cutting it all into nice long strips. And there is 50 of these frames that I'm making up, so it takes a hell of a lot of strips for me to have enough. Now I turned my table saw down so it had a very low blade, and then used it to run across the inside of it, which would just give me a nice little groove that I'll be able to put all of the frames inside of. And then it gets time to cutting it all up. So I tried to stack as many as I could together and use my sliding saw to chop them all into pieces. Now this bit was really annoying. It took me a little while to find a way that actually worked, that I could get through a lot of them in not too much time. So trial and error, and I found clamping the bases together and then just one at a time going through one after the other and nailing them all together. But yes, I am skipping a lot of the repetition that went along here, because there was 50 of them and it was a pain in the butt. But eventually you got through them and they came together. Now, for the outer part of the frame, the beehive itself, I decided to be a massive tightwad. Plus, I didn't really have any more timber that was quite suitable or enough of it left over. So I went to Bunnings and I found some pine flooring, which was really quite cheap. Enough for the 3 hives, probably cost me about $40. And I glued them together, cut them to size, and then started making little dovetails out of it. They're not the neatest ones, they're not the prettiest ones, but I'm not too worried because it's going to go to the back of the garden and it's not going to be seen particularly well. So as long as it's strong, solid, and not about to blow over or break, then I am quite happy with that. Like I said, it could use a little bit of work. They're not the prettiest ones. If it was doing furniture making, then I would probably put a bit more time and effort into it, but it's Beehive. This is good enough for me. But as you can tell, I do love my little nail gun. That thing is fantastic. It's just so satisfying to get the nail gun and go plop, 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 plop. And it's just, I don't have one, just get one. They are so much fun to use. And that is my 6 little hives that I've got there. There are bases and supers, which if you go into it a little bit more tricky, then you'll find out more about it. But basically, I've got a handle on the outside here, and then there's a little insert that the actual frames sit on inside of it. A little bit of measurement, and they came out alright. I needed to adjust my little method here. I needed a stronger clamp than those ones since the nail kept on blowing it out the back. Now this is for my frame, and again I'm using up complete leftovers from other projects. Some of these are from my aquaponic beds, some have been from a gate that I was building, and I've just got a stack of scrap that's being left over. Not too much of it, but stuff that's just been out in the weather, and it is perfect for my uses here. But one thing that I've been reading up about is that ants like to get into beehives. They just love it, which I can understand. So I kind of wanted a way to be able to stop them at the beginning before they can get into it. So my idea was to have a little reservoir that's built in above the actual stand here itself, which I can fill with DA earth or oil or something that would just be a physical barrier to stop the ants getting in there, and it should save me a lot of headaches further along. And like I said, this is old rusty stuff that I had left over out the back, but it works. It's quite thick steel metal, and I'm not making it look pretty. I'm not trying to make it look fancy or anything like that, so it's pretty much cut off the corners, bang it down, and then weld it all into place. And if anybody's wondering, yes, one of my future projects that I've got coming up is I'm going to make a proper welding table that won't catch a light when I'm welding on top of it, because this table I have trashed it completely, and I'm at the point where it doesn't really matter too much, but future project, look forward to it. And here, more scrap, and I welded on some little tabs that I cut out of some plate steel, and that's just going to hold the base onto the hive. And yes, that is some galvanized steel, and I had proper dust masks on because you do not want to breathe that stuff in. It's really not fun. You know, the moment that you've finished making this up and you're like, oh, that's awesome. And then you realize you've accidentally made a Nazi symbol. Well, not a Nazi, so it's gonna get covered anyway. But now I've got the base of this, I'll be able to put something like oil or Damatode DA earth inside of it, which should stop any ants from getting through. And it'll be out of the weather, so it shouldn't be an issue at all. So I'm gonna continue going. All my hives are done, and I've just gotta get a base that goes on top of this, so I'll keep on going. Now for the top and base, I had a bit more wood that was left over. I saved it, sanded it all down so the inside of the hive itself would just be plain pine, and then screwed my little bases into it. Now, one of the good things about being tongue and groove is that I could use the tops and the bottoms to be able to screw it to the base, and it's just a really nice, secure way of holding the hive in place. Well, I think it is. There's a possibility that bees might glue it together and you'll have me grumbling at it in a year's time when I'm trying to pull it all apart, but hopefully this will work quite well and stop it from blowing over. I can also leave a gap at the bottom for the bees to be able to get in at the bottom of the hive, since I didn't put anything on the far end. And pretty much repeated at the top. Took the other half of the tongue and groove and then nailed it all into place. Now, I wanted to be able to keep a little bit of the weather out of it, and also try and keep a little bit of the heat out of the hive as well, because Adelaide summers can be intense. So I built up a little bit of a roof that goes over the top. It should stop a bit of the direct sun and that sort of stuff. And if any of you savvy YouTubers have seen my previous videos, then you'll know that parts of the top of that were from a deck. So I pulled out the deck and it's more leftover wood that I had. Now the paint that I've got here is just a house paint. It's a waterproof outdoor paint. There is nothing at all special about it, but around the outside of the hive it should be perfect. Now, these hives behind me are pretty much done now. There isn't too much more I need to do to it. The only things that I've got to do is I've got some beeswax inside that I'm going to coat on top of the frames, and hopefully that should encourage the bees to attach to it and start building up the comb and everything on top of it. And then the next fun bit is finding some bees, which shouldn't be too tricky considering I have no idea what I'm doing. I have a friend that said he will give me a hand and let me know if there's any hives swarms that are coming up that I should be able to find to put inside of these guys, and then I just got to find some nice places to put them. So I'll keep tuned, and I should have a video of me probably getting stung a hell of a lot of times from being a twit, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm quite excited about these ones. It's been a little bit of a work in progress, and I have put some other projects on hold to get this done because apparently it's almost time for the bees to start swarming. So I am going to leave it at that, and I'll see you guys next time. But don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see more of this stuff coming up soon. Thanks, guys.